Hi, I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. In this presentation, I'm guiding you through recognition of prior learning for CPP 30619 Certificate III in Investigative Services. There are registered training organisations that say in their advertising that if you wore a uniform as a police officer or a soldier or a person in the Navy, you can get recognition of prior learning for CPP 30619 Certificate III in Investigative Services. So here is my presentation on the right advice for recognition of prior learning for CPP 30619. So what we want to know is it a passport to employment, or are you being set up to fail? So if you follow the guide, you can't go wrong. Let's have a look at it. Training.gov.au sets out the rules for what is to be proven for candidates for recognition of prior learning. So if you go to CPP 30619 Certificate III in Investigative Services on training.gov.au, you will see all the various rules and regulations. To understand the competency standards against which you will submit for RPL, this will mean reading and understanding the units. As a guide, those units and the performance criteria and the unit evaluation methods indicate that a police officer with a diploma of policing plus 5 years industry experience will achieve recognition of prior learning for the following 2 units of the 16 required in the qualification only. And they are compile and use official notes, prepare and present evidence in court. Now that's basically the same as a security guard with a Certificate 2 in security operations. Why is that? Well, CPP 30619 Certificate III in Investigative Services is about investigating civil investigations. So that is basically negligence and liability and torts. So here we're looking at compensation for an injured person. Nobody has committed a crime. There are no elements of the offence. If you go deeply into each one of the units, you can see that they say exactly what the employer wants in civil investigations. If you look at work effectively in investigative services, it says you must be able to demonstrate you've done 1 general insurance investigation, that's stolen motor vehicle, home arson, home burglary, public liability in relation to dog bites or slip, trips and falls of visitors to a home, a compulsory third-party liability investigation, that's a CTP Liability motor vehicle accident, and a workers' compensation investigation. It is a requirement that you've done all 3. Conduct factual investigation says you must have done general insurance investigation, compulsory third-party liability and workers' compensation investigation as well. If you haven't done any of those, if you've been limited to murder, rape, domestic violence, it's not going to happen with this qualification. In Provide Quality Investigative Services to Clients, it says you have to have a workers' compensation investigation, a general insurance investigation and a CTP liability investigation experience, or you cannot get credited with being competent in that qualification. In Conduct Interviews and Take Statements, you must interview 3 different people involved in investigations where the complainant or plaintiff or the person who caused the complaint, respondent, employer, or negligent party is involved. You must use an interpreter for one of those in relation to the interview, and that must be in relation to a workers' compensation, general insurance, or CTP liability investigation. With Develop surveillance investigation reports, these must be brand protection, fake goods, so fake handbags, that sort of thing, public liability physical injury report, income protection physical or psychological surveillance report, general insurance physical report, critical infrastructure surveillance report, And all of these must be accompanied by a daily observation sheet. Also, psychological injury reports for surveillance must be included in your experience. Investigate and locate subjects is about not using a police database because you have no access to that as a licensed private investigator. So you have to do it legally using appropriate databases. You cannot just go one click and find a person anymore, and you can't get a friend in the police to do it for you. Develop factual investigation reports says you must do a workers' compensation investigation, a general insurance investigation, a financial crime investigation, or an internal discipline investigation relating to code of conduct, or a compulsory third-party liability investigation. For develop investigation plans, you must again do a workers' compensation, internal discipline, or a code of compliance investigation plan. If you're going to do a record of interview, you must, in this qualification, understand the Suicide Assist Psychological Injury Program. For a CTP Liability, General Insurance, Workers' Compensation, you must also understand the General Insurance Code of Practice in relation to vulnerable clients in financial difficulty or who are victims of domestic violence. When you're interviewing, this isn't a suspect interview, this is an interview that is done as a record of interview for clarity of information and accuracy. It's not like a witness statement, and it's not a police accusatorial interview as such as a record of interview designed to get a confession in the police. It's not like that in this qualification. So here's what employers want you to know. They want you to know, so in order to employ you, the Insurance Contracts Act, common law, workers' compensation, AFCA. They want you to know about liability. They want you to know about civil statements, particulars of negligence, vulnerable claimants. There are no elements of the offence. There are no crimes that you have to investigate. There are two units. One is handle sensitive information and maintain work health and safety. Now, you cannot be deemed competent in these. In the second one, if you don't know what the most common injury is to licensed private investigators, you just won't fly with that. And with handle sensitive information, in civil investigations, if you don't do that correctly, your employer could lose a $5 million annual contract. So it's not like being a police officer and going and knocking on a door and saying, someone told me something, which is useless in this game. This is about ensuring that everything you do is aligned with the client's service level agreement. If you have run your own business for 5 years, you may get RPL for some of these units. For example, research and develop business plans, investigate business opportunities, address client requirements for new business ventures, establish legal and risk management requirements for small business. Now, a lot of police have other jobs when they're in the police. I know many police that were builders and worked in construction as a little sideline, and that's quite common. So you may get recognition of prior learning for some of those things. How do you prove confidential information? If you contact me, I will send you out a statutory declaration form so you can fill that in, and I'll give you a guide on that, on what to say. But if you haven't done a workers' compensation investigation, general insurance investigation, or CTP liability investigation, you are going to have to study those parts of the Certificate III in Investigative Services, because an employer will expect you to know the Insurance Contracts Act and what's relevant in the 2020 version. They will expect you to know the particulars of negligence to be addressed in a common law claim. They'll expect you to know what a statutory claim is and what the difference between a statutory claim and a common law claim is. So, recognition of prior learning for when you're transitioning from police to defence or government, it is a passport to employment if you can prove 5 years experience in workers' compensation, CTP liability, code of conduct investigations, or financial crime investigations in corporate settings. So I hope that clears it up. you may have to do some study in relation to it. Don't expect to go out of the police and start doing elements of the offence, records of interview with suspects, and looking for someone that's committed a crime. It's not going to happen. This qualification isn't designed for that. If you're looking for that, you can always go to Certificate IV in Government Investigation, which has it in abundance. So I'll just get out of that and I'll play you a little video in relation to the issues around.
Hi, I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy, and after 13 years without having a red wine, I decided to have a glass of red with my dinner last night. So I got my bottle opener and I stuck it in the top of the bottle of red wine and I tried to open it, but it wouldn't open. Then I realised they changed it. It didn't have a cork in it like it used to. There was like a tin bottle top. In 2020, there's no more corks. It's all changed. So things change. Then I decided I'd go down to my garage to cheer myself up and change the oil in my surveillance motor vehicle. I opened up the vehicle in order to change the oil. I looked inside the engine bay and there was no engine there. They've changed it. Vehicles don't have engines anymore. Well, to cheer myself up, I decided to go online and buy myself a Roger Moore safari suit. But it's expired. They don't have those in 2020 anymore. So I decided to go online and see if I could study a CPP30619 investigation course. And I looked online and it said if you're in the military or emergency services, you could RPL that qualification. Well, you can't. So in 2020, if you're a police officer, emergency services officer, or in the military, you cannot RPL CPP30619 unless you undertook insurance or financial crime or code of conduct, factual and/or surveillance investigations. The qualification has changed, just like my red wine, just like my car engine, just like the safari suit. These things have changed, and now you must be able to demonstrate for RPL that you've done insurance investigation, financial crime investigation, or code of conduct, factual and/or surveillance investigations, RPL CPP 30619. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy.
CPPINV3032 Develop Factual Investigation Reports Performance Evidence. To demonstrate competency, a candidate must meet the performance criteria of this unit by conducting 3 different factual investigations. 1 general insurance investigation, 1 compulsory third-party liability investigation, 1 workers' compensation investigation. CPPINV3030 Conduct Factual Investigations Performance Evidence. To demonstrate competency, a candidate must meet the performance criteria of this unit by conducting 3 different factual investigations. 1 general insurance investigation, 1 compulsory third-party liability investigation, 1 workers' compensation investigation. CPPINV3029 Provide quality investigative services to clients. Performance evidence. To demonstrate competency, a candidate must meet the performance criteria of this unit by providing factual or surveillance investigative services, or a combination of both. to 3 different clients involving each of the following types of investigative cases: a workers' compensation investigation, a general insurance investigation, a compulsory third-party liability investigation. No other form of assessment is acceptable. CPPINV3026 Work, effectively an investigative services performance evidence. To demonstrate competency, a candidate must meet the performance criteria of this unit by working effectively in investigative services while completing work instruction for 3 different investigations: 1 general insurance investigation, 1 compulsory third-party liability investigation, 1 workers' compensation investigation, internal discipline code of conduct. For each investigation, the candidate must document a summary of legislative requirements in the jurisdiction of operation plus 1 other jurisdiction, and how these were applied to the investigation. CPPINV3027 Develop Investigation Plans Performance Evidence. To demonstrate competency, a candidate must meet the performance criteria of this unit by developing 3 different investigation plans: 2 factual investigation plans, 1 for a general insurance investigation or 1 for a financial crime investigation, 1 for a workers' compensation investigation or 1 internal discipline investigation, 1 surveillance investigation plan. Assessments including RPL are specifically only on civil investigations. This nationally recognised qualification gives no credit for criminal investigations. To obtain this qualification, you must demonstrate experience or study of workers' compensation, general insurance, CTP liability, financial crime, internal dispute resolution or disciplinary, code of conduct investigations, factual or surveillance.
And that is all about recognition of prior learning for CPP30619 Certificate III in Investigative Services. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian